Welcome to this MBH Insights episode. My name is Callum Laing. I am the CEO of MBH Corporation, and I'm joined here by Victor Tan.
So going through EBIT and EBITDA, in terms of these are all P&L metrics and measures financial performance of a company. Both metrics start with net profit after tax, adds back tax, adds back interest, and it gets to that EBIT line. Now with EBITDA, it adds back one more layer of expenses, which is depreciation and amortization. You also hear from MBH, you talk about free cash flows, and the metric calculates the cash inflow or outflows from the business operations minus CapEx. Both metrics are sort of required. I think there's no single metrics in the world that measures the financial performance, gives that full picture of a company's performance. From our perspective, EBIT and free cash flow is probably the right metrics for MBH.
Why do companies choose EBIT versus EBIT?
A couple of reasons. So EBIT, we believe, is closer to cash. So EBITDA excludes this big chunk of expenses, which is depreciation and amortization. Prior to IFRS coming in with new accounting standards, which moves all the rent expense into that depreciation and amortization line, which is quite material. Depreciation and amortization, it's quite a furphy type of number. Accounting standards allow you to capitalize a lot of expenditure and depreciate it. So we don't think that's accurate. Now with EBITDA, now with IFRS coming in, that's a substantial amount of expenses that's moved to that line, right? And if you don't consider EBIT and you consider EBITDA, it definitely overinflates the actual company performance. Well, definitely hides the rent expenses, and that could form 20% of your revenue for most companies. We thought it's more transparent to use EBIT. EBIT is a lot closer to free cash flow.
Shareholders should be able to understand as much about the business as possible, and it's not always straightforward when we've got multiple subsidiaries.
Yeah, definitely. I think it depends on the industry that you're in. For example, capital-intensive companies may choose to use EBITDA because they want to see what profits are generated through using those assets. So if you're an investor, you need to decide what success or what key metrics you want to view or analyze the company with. Now, some companies don't use EBITDA or EBIT as their primary financial metric. For example, Facebook in the early years, it's all about monthly active users, revenue from their users and so forth. And, they don't have a PE ratio, for example, in the first 10 years of their sort of operations. So I think industry is very critical. Now with free cash flow, it provides additional information. You can't view that metric as a standalone metric. For example, if you've got a company that has a low free cash flow, it doesn't mean it's a bad company. It could be generating tons of cash, but it's reinvesting in CapEx, in software, technology, and so forth for future growth. Now, that's very positive. Now, we spoke about accounting jurisdictions as well. Now, with IFRS coming in, it does distort EBIT and EBITDA a fair bit. These are very traditional metrics. With that rent expense being now captured under depreciation and amortization, by default, EBITDA definitely overinflates the underlying performance of a company.
Let's just have a look at MBH.
Yeah, so you look at EBIT. So this graph covers 2019 to 2021 results. Obviously, our 2022 results will be out in April this year. EBIT's been positive every year, and we started with nearly close to 4 million in 2019. It dropped to 1.6 in 2020 with COVID, and we bounced back through the recovery out of pandemic to 5.2 million. Now, if you look at the EBITDA metric in 2021, EBITDA was 8.1 million, and that's a big material gap between that EBIT and EBITDA figure, and that illustrates sort of my point about the accounting standards, how that impacts these financial metrics. Obviously, rent expense is a huge component of our business expenses, and you can see how that distorts those two figures, 8.1 million versus 5.2 million. Now, with free cash flows, 2019 is 4.8 million. It dropped to minus 2.8 during COVID. And again, we sort of bounced back to 4.3 million in 2021.
Awesome. Well, hopefully that has helped to explain and clear up any confusion, and I hope you found this video useful. Let us know in the comments if you have any other questions around this topic, or if there's any other topics that you would like us to do a deep dive on.